Good morning again, dear ones, and welcome. So great to see all of you today in this very room as well as online. And welcome everybody that's with us thanks to the wonderful technology of Zoom or whoever it is we use. But we're so glad you're with us. Or if you're watching later, we welcome you as well. So my topic for today, because we have a really busy week coming up, and I'll talk much more about that, is Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, life and death, death and life. So, because as so very often happens, actually pretty much always, whenever I am speaking to you, I am also speaking to myself. So I appreciate your being in this very room to hear me talk to myself. So we have a busy week coming up, as you're probably aware. Today is the 26th of October. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure where I've been this year, but I can't believe that in just a few days I'll be taking down the Halloween decorations and getting ready to put up those next ones. But nonetheless, here we are. So, a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Halloween, which we'll talk about, as you probably know, is Friday. All Saints Day is Saturday, November 1st, when especially the Catholic faith and others as well honor saints known and unknown. All Souls Day, which is November 2nd, next Sunday, November 2nd, which is a solemn and reflective Christian day and Christian holiday. And then Dia de los Muertos, Friday through Sunday. So all next weekend in indigenous beliefs and Spanish Catholicism, but more of a joyful and celebratory experience with a focus on remembrance and family. So that's what we're going to talk a little about today, is this experience of remembrance and of gratitude and of honoring those who have gone on before us and who have blessed us. This morning at your chair, you might notice there are 2 extra index cards, more than what you normally get, and we'll use those for a ritual after a while, so hang on to those if you would. Those of you who are at home or are watching later, I invite you to get a couple of pieces of paper if you'd like, so that you can be with us as we go through this ritual. Busy week. And as you know, the little monsters will appear Friday night, depending on where you live. I live in a townhouse, and I get between 0 and 5 normally trick-or-treaters. However, I always buy the good, you got to buy the good candy. Because if something happens and you don't have any trick-or-treaters, you don't want to be left with the, those of you that have been in San Diego a long time remember Food Basket and it was Lady Lee, the cheaper, just okay candy. I want Hershey's, I want Reese's, I want Almond Joy, right? Why waste the calories on something that's just okay? So make sure you've still got time. Costco still has the big bags of the good stuff, so be sure you're ready just in case. So I'm always curious, or very often curious, about why we do what we do. And it's an ongoing question in life, is why people do what they do, and why do we as a society do what we do. Halloween started as All Hallows Eve from the Celtic festival of Samhain, marking the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of winter. Now, in San Diego, we're going to do the beginning of winter and probably not make that much of a difference in our lives, but you might be looking for a sweater. You might be thinking about putting a fire in the fireplace, but probably not do it because it doesn't get that cold. But as we know in other parts of the country and the world, this is big stuff. I was in Milwaukee a few weeks ago, which was absolutely wonderful, and I had such a great visit with dear friends there. And of course, they're doing what they're doing, getting ready for winter, because they're serious, and they're serious about winter. But anyway, so this All Hallows Eve was the night the dead could roam the earth So the people lit bonfires and wore costumes to ward off the spirits. So that's how all of this started back in the day, and now we have Shrek costumes and Mickey Mouse costumes and whatever else. But kind of a cool tradition. So the other thing, and next weekend for 3 days is this experience of the Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos. It has a history rooted in ancient Mesoamerican ritual, particularly those of the Aztecs, who celebrated death as a continuation of life and honored the deceased. After the Spanish conquest, these traditions merged with Catholicism's All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, moving the celebration to December 31st as well as November 1st and 2nd. So today it is a vibrant celebration to honor deceased loved ones by creating altars, making offerings, and sharing memories rather than just mourning their loss. So we honor them, we recognize that we miss their presence in our lives, but also honor and celebrate the gifts that they gave us and their presence still with us in our hearts and our minds. So that's really what we're about today. I got it. This was so cool. I love being a minister, and I love writing a talk because I learned so much that I never knew before about all of these really cool things. And I learned 5 or 6 new Spanish words. So now I know about 14 words of Spanish rather than the 10 that I knew before. You know, life is an ongoing learning experience. So there are several traditions in this, and you may know this already, but if you don't, there's several traditions within this experience of celebrating the Day of the Dead, and one of those is the altar or ofrenda. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Close enough? Thank you so much. So, and because you can find anything on the internet, and ideally what you're looking for in a good way, and so I did some research, and so this is a special altar to honor and remember loved ones who have passed. Traditionally, they include photos, candles, food, drinks, and personal items of the departed. So this is big. This can be big stuff if you choose to. This really is a pretty amazing, heartfelt experience. I love the concept of this. And so on our ofrenda, we include water placed in a glass or pitcher to quench the spirit's thirst after their long journey from wherever they came from. From whence they came, that's not right, but wherever they came from, we'll go with that. So including the 4 elements, so water and then wind, represented by papel picado, which in English means chopped or minced paper. And so and for those of you who are familiar with this tradition, if I get something wrong, bear with me and then see me afterwards. Thank you very much. But go with me on this. Yeah, unless it's really dramatic. So colorful paper banners that move with the air, symbolizing the union between the living and the dead. Then earth is symbolized by food offerings, especially pan de muerto, or bread of the dead, but could also be our dear ones' favorite dishes to put on the altar to honor and remember and celebrate them. And then fire, represented by candles, often arranged in the shape of a cross to symbolize the 4 cardinal directions, and the flames provide light and help the spirits find their way. Kind of cool. Really kind of cool. And marigolds, which you'll see that we have on our ritual table, are used because of their bright colors that represent the sun and strong scent. They're believed to guide spirits of the deceased back to their families. Families can scatter marigold petals to create a path from the cemetery or front door to the altar. They also represent the fragility of life and the cycle of death and rebirth. So I love this experience of remembrance and of celebration, recognizing and giving thanks for those people and the gifts that they brought us. Now, as we're doing this, and we'll do a ritual, and some of you brought pictures to go on the wall, which was wonderful, and thank you for that. And if you didn't, that's okay. But we'll do a ritual in a few minutes, thinking about the people in our lives who have left us that we want to offer love and honor and gratitude for. And as we talk about this, there is always the opportunity to feel a little grief and to feel a little loss, or a lot of grief and a lot of loss. Whether the person that we loved and cared about made their transition yesterday, or last month, or 8 years ago, or 20 years ago. And so as we go through this process, and as we go on through the day and through this week, I so invite you to allow yourself to be with those feelings, whatever they are, to not cover them up. And you've heard me use the terms toxic positivity and spiritual bypass, that, well, they're in a better place, or they lived a good life, or it's all good, or, those things that we tell ourselves. But how important it is for us to honor those feelings that we have as we walk through this, because we can be in joy and gratitude and celebration for them while also grieving their loss and their not having their physical presence with us. Not only is that okay, but it's also necessary. And if you need permission, reach out to me, and I am happy to give you permission to do that. We have to allow ourselves to have those human emotions. Yes. So I found this. You've heard me say this before, and you will again, that I love Facebook. And I just find the coolest quotes on Facebook, and this is one of them that I found, because we are allowed to be happy, hurting, and healing all at the same time, all at once, because we're human, not a rock. And so ideally, we in New Thought are moving past this covering up whatever the emotions are, because we know that even if we're not expressing them, even if we're not feeling them, it doesn't mean they go away. They just stay and come back later in surprising and wonderful ways. So again, I just invite us through this process to be with whatever it is comes up for us. We have Kleenex boxes all over the room, and just allow yourself to feel what you feel. Do I have... I'll talk about that in just a minute. So I would suggest that everyone we're talking about today are parents, grandparents, partners, children, friends, everyone, and quoting Course in Miracles, and one of my favorite quotes from Course in Miracles reminds us that everyone and everything leans toward us to bless us. The blessing is not necessarily obvious. Sometimes they have been the most loving, the most wonderful parents that we could not imagine gotten better parents. They were so wonderful. And sometimes they were not. But I would suggest that no matter what the situation was, there is a blessing and a lesson and an opportunity for us to take from that relationship as we move forward. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. So this photo, yes, that is me on the left, was taken, I know, right? In when I was a boy, and yes, we actually had cameras then. 1964, probably 63 or 64. That's my father. He was the kindest, most welcoming, most compassionate person I have ever known. And that is the gift that he brought me that I took with me. But the other side of it was when so he was born and raised in the Amish community outside of Tulsa, of all places, and worked really hard as a boy, worked really hard as an adult. And when he turned 62, he said, you know what? There are other people who need this job. And he retired and went and sat down. Drove my mother just slightly crazy, but that's okay. If you live with a dear one who's in the house all the time, you know that there can be that cabin fever. Not that I just don't love you, but wouldn't you like to go out and do something? But nonetheless. So the lesson for me from that was, I am not sitting down. I am not finished until I'm absolutely finished. I'm going to keep moving. But in both situations, he brought me these most amazing gifts. So as you think back on the people who have been in your life, who has brought you a wonderful gift, a wonderful blessing that you honor and cherish and will keep in your heart forever? And who has brought you this wonderful, wonder-full, as in, I wonder how in the world this came into my life? You have some of those, I have those. Who has brought you that gift, that blessing in disguise, that you can look back and say, thank you so much for that wisdom, because as a result of that, I'm not doing that the way you did. I'm living my life in a different way. I am being loving. I am being compassionate, but you did the best you could. Because again, if everyone and everything leans toward us to bless us, there is always that blessing for us. Whether we judge it as positive or negative, it was always a gift. So our ritual for this morning, what I invite you to do is, on your 2 index cards, I would like you to write down 1 or 2 or however many people, and we'll just take a couple of minutes on this, people that in your life that have gone on, that you would like to honor and celebrate their presence and their wisdom and the gifts that they brought to you. We'll take a couple of minutes to do this, and then we'll go over to the table and light a candle for them, literally. So let's take just a couple of minutes for this. So who would you like to honor and celebrate and remember today in gratitude for being a wonderful example of how you want to live your life, or a wonderful example of how you choose not to live your life? Again, recognizing that everyone leans toward us to bless us. And folks on the internet, I invite you to do this ritual with us as well. And folks in the front row, whenever you're ready, if you'd like to come over, I won't have sound for this, but what I'd like for us to do, bring your card over, place it, choose a candle, light the candle by turning it on. I didn't want to burn down the house. And then place your card under the candle. quiet of this moment, we come together in gratitude for the dear ones who have gone on before us, for their love, for their wisdom, for their lessons, whether we judge them as positive or negative at the time. We honor them for their lives, for their contributions that they made to our lives. And we move forward living our best lives, recognizing that that is how we honor them, moving forward in joy and passion and possibility. We will always hold them in our hearts and minds, knowing that they are always with us. So for this day, for our time together, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you. So before we leave this morning, in a little while, I will invite you to take a marigold, if you would like. Please do feel free to do that. So I have a few more things to say, what a surprise, as we honor and celebrate and remember those who have gone on before us, what's next for us? Because if you've had this experience in your life, and everybody, we all have, when a parent has made their transition, or a partner or a spouse has, or a child has, or another dear one has, we sometimes think, well, that's what I was here to be with them and to take care of them, and now I'm done. But I would suggest that that is absolutely not the case for us, because if we're still here, there's something for us to do. And so how important it is to ask that question if we need to. So what's next for me, knowing that there is always more to do? So I was thinking about this, and I'm not a particularly happy country music fan, but I found this song by Tim McGraw, "Live Like You Were Dying." And I don't have him singing, but I have, thank you. I have the lyrics for that. And I will not sing this for you because I love you too much. We all have our gifts. So the story is his father is diagnosed with a terminal disease. And so he's talking with his father, and his father says, "I was finally the husband that most time I wasn't, and I became a friend would like to have. And all of a sudden going fishing wasn't such an imposition, and I went 3 times that year. I lost my dad. Well, I finally read the good book, and I took long, hard looks at what I'll do to live like I was dying. I went skydiving. I went Rocky Mountain climbing. I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. And I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I'd been denying." And he said, "Sometimes I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying." Such a great song. Such a great song. Because at the end, when we're getting ready to go on, what we don't want to say is, "I wish I would have." And because you can find absolutely anything you want on the internet, and a good amount of stuff that you didn't want to find, I found this great quote from CNBC's Make It website. And the title of the topic is "How to Avoid the Number One Kind of Regret People Have When They Die." This came from Jody Wellman. She wrote the book "You Only Die Once: How to Make It to the End with No Regrets." And she refers to regrets of what we did, but almost more important are pregrets. So regrets for what we didn't do. And I love the concept of that. Now, keeping in mind, if skydiving, bungee jumping, I know, right? Propelling and pummeling sports are not your thing, as they are not mine, that's okay. But just what is ours, that book, that trip, that forgiveness, that whatever it is, that the still small voice, because we get the tap, and gee, wouldn't that be fun? And gee, wouldn't that be fun? Whatever is ours to do, I absolutely know that we are honoring our dear ones by not sitting in the corner waiting to go on to our next experience, but getting up and saying, thank you for the gifts that you gave me, and now this is mine to do. I absolutely know that to be true for us. So from this article, and I got to get this book, it sounds really good. So, and she suggests, so get comfy in your bed. Imagine you're lying on your deathbed. Now this, I know this sounds a little iffy, but go with me on this. Imagine that you're lying on your deathbed, reflect back on your life, and zero in on your regrets of omission, the things that you didn't do. Who didn't I forgive? What chocolate did I miss out on? What trip did I not take? What didn't I do? So make a list of what comes up for you. Circle the entries that make your heart beat a little faster. You know, when we get that feeling of excitement and oh wow, how cool would that be? That's our still small voice saying, yep, that's yours to do. Pay close attention to the yes buts. And you've heard me talk about this before, about so often we get waylaid or detoured because our ego says, but what will they think? The truth is, who is they? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now, I encourage us not to run naked down University Avenue. You know, if that's a thing, then we can talk about that and decide if there's some other alternative. But short of that, if it resonates for you, if it's something that you really want to do, if it makes your heart sing and your tail wag, that must be ours to do. So pay close attention to the yes buts. And then think about what it would take to move forward even one step, write it down, and then get a good night's sleep, and the next day, do it. Just the next step. Want to go on a Viking River cruise down the Rhine? Probably not this afternoon, probably not tomorrow, but I could get information. When do they go? How much does it cost? Get the brochures, start to begin to think about the possibility of maybe, and then allow Spirit to do what Spirit does, because as we know, when we say yes, life always creates the way for us. And this is how we honor our dear ones. This is how we honor our dear ones who have gone before us by living our best possible lives and saying thank you for the wisdom, and thank you for the joy, and thank you for the knowledge. Because, and another thing from Facebook, don't leave anything for later. Later the coffee gets cold. Later you lose interest. Later the day turns into night. Later people grow up. People grow old. Life goes by. Later you regret not doing something when you had the chance. So what's ours to do? We honor our dear ones by saying yes. I'm still here, and if I'm still here, there's a reason. And we go out and get to live our most amazing lives in honor and celebration and gratitude for them and the wisdom and the love and the lessons that they brought to us. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a moment. So staying in this consciousness of oneness, in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we offer gratitude for these dear ones who we will always carry in our minds and in our hearts, for the still small voice and the divine discontent sometimes that says, yes, but you could do that. Yes, but wouldn't you like to do that? Yes, but if you have an idea about it and a passion for it, there must be a way. And so this week, we honor and celebrate the dear ones who have gone before us, the wisdom, the love, the lessons. And we say yes, thank you, and more please to life and our passionate living of it. For our time together today, for this celebration and ritual, for this beloved spiritual community, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is.